Hey guys, we are going live. It is the 2021 wrestling season right around the corner. I am John Gums and this is Bill Holtan. We are here to talk a little bit of wrestling tonight. I'm excited to just start another year. I tell you what, this last spring, I'm so glad we got our state wrestling tournament in. There's so many other things that were going on that, it was kind of scary a little bit when it came down to, how we squeezed our state wrestling team, a wrestling tournament in and everything there. But, Bill, I'll let you start off. What have you done in the off season? I know you started to watch a little wrestling here these last, I'd say weeks, probably here, last couple of weeks, and they're starting to go again. I'll give people some updates. Actually, I'll give you a little rundown of what I planned on talking about in the show tonight. So the people that are watching on Facebook, a few people over on YouTube will be over there too. But we're going to talk a little bit of South Dakota and North Dakota High School Activities Association. I talked to both the people that run that. Also tonight, we'll probably talk a little Beat the Streets, a little bit of Penn State, and I'll give you some information about what is happening around the nation right now, wrestling-wise. Other than that, if you guys have any questions, feel free to pop them on here. We do have a comment session on the bottom, so you should be able to see that. Bill is expert at this place. He did several things with his field trials this summer. Really impressed what he's doing live on his stuff. And I tell you what, I'm just ready to talk wrestling. I'll let Bill introduce himself and anything he wants to say.
Hi, yeah, Bill Holtan here from coming here from Central North Dakota. Obviously big wrestling fan. John and I have had a lot of fun talking wrestling over the last year or so. It's been a good time. We've really, for me, it's been fun because I've been able to meet a lot of, pretty good friends and people around the state, both states, North Dakota, South Dakota, that I didn't already know. And then, others that you just kind of get reacquainted with. So that's me here. The summer's been pretty busy, I guess, with work and trying to train a few dogs and we've kind of been in some crazy times with the virus stuff, and we kind of hopefully, through this next month or so, we start kind of getting through that. And I do still follow the sport just as much as I did in the middle of the season. So there has been a few wrestling events that have gone on through the summer. There was a group in Chicago that held a Rumble on the Rooftop one night. There were some real good matches there. Beat the Streets had a great, match great event last Thursday night. We'll talk about that a little bit tonight. And some of those exciting matches. And then this last weekend on kind of a new platform, the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club held what I hope is something that we're going to see a lot. But basically, it was a duel between the Nittany Lion guys, they're the regional training center, and the regional training centers from everybody was pretty much a regional training center from University of Penn or the Penn RJTC, and also Cliff Keen out of Michigan. So we had some great matches, some great women's matches, some real good international flair of guys that are wrestling for other countries but training out of Penn or Penn State or Nittany Lion Wrestling Club or Cliff Keen. So there were some great matches there. Obviously came right down to the very final match of the night. That was really a lot of fun to watch. So I'm hoping that what we will see going forward is more of that type of event where you have these regional training centers that are affiliated with colleges, obviously in most cases. If we could see duels like that happen between the Nittany Lion guys versus the Hawkeye Wrestling Club guys or the Sunkist group or, whoever it is. I mean, that is New York, New Jersey RTC has got a great stable of both international flair as well as Americans. So there could be a lot of fun if we can see that happen throughout the next, this year, I guess. I think the last time we did an event, we were looking forward to seeing a national NCAA Division II national tournament, NCAA Division I national tournament, and then we were building towards the Olympics, and here we are 6 months later, and none of them happened. So the good news is they are the Olympics are still going to happen. It's just going to be next year.
Yeah, I tell you what, we were deciding so many things come March. I had press passes to be down the floor in the D1s, and I was kind of really looking forward to spending the time in Minneapolis. And so there are several people within this Midwest region that were so down. What are we going to do with wrestling? I have a shirt, the March Sadness instead of Madness going on. But no, we had so many things happen in such a short amount of time, and I'm hoping that this can recover. Some people are really, first post I was reading, really negative, wrestling being a full, how can you say, contact sports, not knowing enough about COVID. But there's a bright future out there. A lot of the states are starting to turn around and do their fall sports. And with that happening, that is just a plus for wrestling, because if football can make it through, if volleyball can make it through, the only thing that maybe this will open up for more people like us to get on and do more live stuff, because there's not going to be as many fans allowed. And that's pretty much one of the things I'll talk about later tonight too. Basically, let me start with North Dakota, kind of get that done. I did talk to our head guy. He's an ex-Hettinger guy. I know his son wrestled for Hettinger, and he's actually a teacher in Mandan. And so what's interesting is Morast, Kevin Morast, I talked to him this afternoon with the High School Activities Association. He was really excited on what their progress has happened with fall sports, because there was really a close, tight, how could you say, there were very few states that really took the ball and ran with it, and allowed football to play. They did, and they left it up to their, kind of how you'd think of the president leaving the states up to things. Our state allowed every school district to the member schools to take their individual sport and to run it how they saw, especially when it came to fans. He talked about football at these smaller towns. They haven't had to limit people. Get to the bigger towns, and they give out what we call in Bismarck the golden ticket to go watch your kid play. So maybe it'll lead to more live streams. In fact, it's on one of the suggestions on the list of return to sport things. Top, there's a list of 8 things, which I might be able to bring up on the screen later and stuff. So I do see Sean Lewis. It's great to see him from Pierre. Gums, you didn't get a road trip to sell ads at Dakota Grappler. What restaurant and meal do you miss the most? What's interesting is I did make it to Pierre. In fact, I'll talk about that. Sean, you were busy that day, and I actually cruised by the Diamonds, and you were umpiring some baseball, and I actually watched the umpire. I wasn't going to interfere with what you're doing. You look pretty serious in I call it your uniform, but your umpire gear. And so, Sean, I will come back and visit with you in Pierre. Did several things. Everybody was great at responding, and I got all my ads back in Pierre. So that was a good thing. But, Sean, thanks for coming on. A lot more people. Feel free to make comments. It does make a big difference on how we answer things. But let me talk more about North Dakota. Okay. Now, I wrote down some notes here, so just hold on for just a couple seconds. Okay. Right now he says that all sports for winter on as scheduled. They're not going to delay. That was one of the first questions that people had asked me. Are we going to start wrestling come January? Some colleges proposed that to start their wrestling season after January 1. Well, right now, scheduled as they were. Now, when it comes to individual events and tournaments, that is all going to be based on what they call the October 1 meeting a little bit more. October 1, they have the return to sports meeting with the High School Activities Association and their board members and who all is all involved in that. And they're going to have the criteria of what basically they have to do to have duels, have tournaments, be able to get together, practice procedures so that it's the safest environment for everybody involved. We're talking if have to wear masks or anything at certain times, fans, how many are going to be allowed, what kind of percentages, and they're going to leave a lot of that stuff up to the schools. But what they did say is that, one of the major, or at least one of the thought processes was that some schools are going to really take advantage of this and get some good wrestling in, and other schools are going to hold their guys back. So it's going to be district by district. And I tell you what, it's going to become interesting at the end of the year. I don't know if you ever paid attention to South Dakota, but Phillips, South Dakota, always kind of starts their season late, and they'll start after Christmas. And some of the wrestlers will have 20 matches going into regions, and then other guys will have 40 or 50 nowadays of matches. A couple other things to return to sports: the member schools, number of spectators. Just that I think he was really excited that North Dakota has returned to sports, and they've been very safe and very successful. And as the next few weeks going into playoffs, state tournaments for both volleyball, cross country, for all fall sports is going to really pretty much lead the way on what we're going to be doing wrestling wise, because he believes that is the main thing. Now in South Dakota, a couple different questions there, not much different. There, I had talked to John Krogstrand, and he was telling me that one of the big questions this fall came from other states who had closed things down, like Minnesota had decided they were going to close all their sports. But guess what? As of today, what is Minnesota doing? They actually opened up their football season, and it's going to be short 6-game season. But they really turned the corner here and allowing sports. So that's a good sign for wrestlers in Minnesota. South Dakota got lots of calls from these bordering towns in Minnesota, right along the border from basically, you could say, Sioux Falls all the way north up to Brookings. All these places were getting calls on what their transfer rules are. They were really talking juniors and seniors wanting to come over because guess what? Some of these guys want to wrestle in college and do some wrestling beyond high school. And South Dakota rule was if you don't make a direct transfer into that school district, meaning they called it a bona fide move. That means you have to actually sell your house and move and buy in or get an apartment. You actually have to prove that. Then you're automatically eligible. Or actually, there's a 10-day wait from that period. And then they're eligible. Now, they did have there are some bordering state rules that you could actually, let's say you're closer to another school district. Let's say a school closed down, like in Minnesota, there's possible you could actually do an open enrollment, and that's different. But then there's a 45-day wait, and you'd have to look into the South Dakota rules a little better. I started to read them, and I'm not an expert when it comes to the rules. I'll just kind of follow. So I did not, and I actually asked some questions, some coaches, if they had some transfers coming in, and I didn't hear any major transfers. Another thing is if they were going to do any type of transfers into the state in South Dakota had stated a new rule that they had to have it by July 1. Oh. If they didn't have it in by July 1, then they could be denied, and then they'd have to have a full year wait. And anybody that came in, it's not that they wouldn't allow them to wrestle. They could, but they couldn't compete varsity-wise. They could be a JV wrestler, and that JV wrestler then could, let's say, still wrestle and do everything else, but that's not the same as being able to compete. You know how that is. But let's say you had a 7th or 8th grader just coming into the state, they have to obey the same rules as it goes. He also said that, let's see, Iowa schools, very strict rules there on transferring. So really the border state of South Dakota with Iowa didn't make a huge difference because their rules were really strict. Nebraska rules were really strict. Wyoming rules. So this idea that people were having that some people is going to load a team, Canton's loaded the way it is, and then Canton gets 3 more kids from across the border or something. Well, you just can't do it. It's almost impossible without a full move into a school district. That's the big thing. Another thing, since we are at, I just want to bring up some dates for some people. Now, it's right around the corner, but North Dakota's first practice date is November 8th. So you got to think October, November. So we are a month and a half out. That's all. A month and a half, so 6-7 weeks, and we're into the wrestling season. Now, college, I did talk to some coaches there, and there are some people starting to practice there, and they're doing outdoor practices. They're doing conditioning. They're getting ready for a real season. So what have you heard so far? I could go on forever.
Yeah. Well, on the college side, the D1, 2, and 3 have all pushed back, and NAI, I believe, have pushed back the start of their season until January 1.
January, yep.
But that puts a start of the actual first day of official practice somewhere towards the middle to the end of November. And I don't remember the exact date. Actually, might be towards the beginning of November. But I do know for a fact, obviously, that preseason practices, preseason workouts, just like they've always have started again. They, they're, I guess I'm obviously close to the Northern program, and they are, they've got pods. So you got 6 guys that you work with all the time, and they'll bring those guys in small groups, and they will practice, and they are practicing in the room. I think they're wrestling a couple days a week, and then they're lifting and doing the rest of their work also.
Sure. So is that pod then kind of their social group that they hang with then?
It becomes that way, right?
Okay.
So, and obviously for the most part, it's somewhat weight related, because these are your practice partners at this time of year too. So it may be a wide range, but then
I've also heard that they've had to maybe do double practices, cut the numbers in half for the rooms and spaces.
Yep. Oh yeah. They're doing, probably, they're doing I mean, it's one, I think pretty much one group in the one or maybe 2 groups in the, at a time. So, they are in, real small group settings, I mean, and then, I will, I can speak for Northern. I mean, that the whole, I guess I'm not speaking for Northern, but speaking as what I see happening there.
Yeah.
I'm not a spokesperson, but I'll tell you what, that camp is 100% masked up. And it's the way that the athletes have taken this to heart, because this is so important to them to be able to have a somewhat of a regular season and that's in every sport. So these guys are taking it pretty seriously. So that's kind of where they're at right now. And I think everybody's planning on right now, starting, a competitive season, January 1. You'll probably look at teams having, I don't know, maybe 10 duels. I can see, I don't think there will be a single tournament, but with the exception of the regional and the national. So,
okay.
And I think I would guess you'll probably see the same thing on the division 2 side or division 1 side. I think you'll see those guys will all start, and it'll pretty much be an in-conference dual schedule, and then they'll get to their Big 10s, Big 12s, their qualifiers and on to the national, which will be make things really interesting when it comes to, and now we're probably putting the cart way in front of the horse, but when it comes to national qualifier time, because it is so important what the regular season looks like for these Division 1 athletes, as to how many qualifiers you get out of each conference. And if you only end up with, whatever, say what it is, 14 dual meets and very little competition outside of your conference, it's going to be it'll be interesting. I think we'll see a very different national tournament this year than we would normally see. And I don't know if it means we'll have they'll do something weird and have a smaller field, or they'll do something weird and have a bigger field.
And where are the D1s scheduled to be this year? Do you remember?
I believe St. Louis.
St. Louis. Okay, that's a little bit far for me. I want to make it back.
I think that's right. I believe St. Louis. Well, talking about D2s are in Birmingham, Alabama. So talking about far. That's where they're at. But
I did look at Northern's lineup. Now we'll talk about them just a half a second. I did see that they picked up 2 South Dakota kids at Althoff and Stroop or something like that. I think were the names of the 2 but I can't think of any of the. No, they're out of state guys. And the kid from Nebraska.
They also got the Aberdeen Central kid, 113 pounder. Drawing a blank here all of a sudden off the top.
Yeah. Okay.
Tom knows him good.
Yeah.
Gosh, state champ at 113 pounds.
I know exactly who you should be talking about, and why can't I think? I'll think of it in a second. Sal Frank.
Yep.
Yeah. Sal
Frank.
Yeah,
I assume that he's.
Yeah. There we go, Tom.
It will redshirt this year. I mean, it makes 100% sense for him to redshirt. I don't know that I haven't talked to anybody about it, but this is going to be a weird season the way it is. I believe he's probably a guy that's got to get a little bit bigger,
Right.
But he's a super talented kid. I think the sky's the limit for him. So they did bring in one junior college transfer, or maybe NAIA transfer, 197 pounder, real, looks like a pretty good athlete. Looks like, I think, a pretty solid kid. They do have if we went up and down the lineup together, I mean, they returned a lot. They returned a lot of people. They really returned everybody, but
Sure.
3 seniors, one was a national qualifier, and one that has been ranked on in the nation quite a bit, in Kenny Jones, and then Walker Carr, and the other senior would have been Riley Lura from Carrington that also left. So they have they did have a 184 pounder from last year that did not come back. I'm not saying he won't come back. I think he's taking a year off. I think he's looking at this year going, I don't know what's going to happen. It's the last. He's a senior, and I think he's thinking maybe we'll see how this all shakes out, and if everything worked out great, maybe show up second semester, or if there is no season, he'll stay home and come back the next year. So
yes, I was really impressed on how they just improved as the year went. They were working hard and seemed like a very tight knit group of guys. Did golf again at the Northern. We actually golfed pretty well.
Not bad.
Not that we were in the mix so much, but we had fun.
Nobody got hurt.
Nope. It was actually very fun. Nobody won $10,000 on hole one or nothing. So. Nope. But how about I tell you what, big news in North Dakota. We did have the Tanafu sign, and they're going to D1 out in Michigan.
Yep.
And so that's kind of big news. They really liked if you read the articles on them, they liked the diversity, and they liked just the whole atmosphere. They felt very comfortable with the coaches and just the relationship that they had made with the team the first time they went out and visited them. So that was kind of big news. Other than that, I think we got quite a few guys out there that are going to be signing places, and so we'll have to see as it goes. I think a lot of people are holding off, especially on the ones wrestling this year. I think there's a lot of wrestlers kind of waiting for that opportunity.
Well, yeah. I'll touch on the Tanafu situation first. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great fit. I'm really excited to see. I think they will be. I don't think that they've scratched their potential yet. I think these are kids that are tremendously gifted, and they from everything I've heard and seen, they have a tremendous work ethic, and they will very likely have a pretty good college career. Now we move to the next level, and that Cliff Keene Wrestling Club, which is based out of Michigan, they have wrestlers on that team that are all American high school, college wrestlers that wrestle for teams all over the world. They have, I bet they have at least a half a dozen different countries that they have guys going to
really
around the world. That teams that they have dual citizenship, or they have there was an in right.
We talked about wrestling international.
Dang near open enrollment. So Dave Habit, who was an Edinburgh wrestler, is wrestling for Slovenia. You've got let's see who else is there. The Amines, they wrestle for who is it? Marino.
Okay.
Which is a country inside of Italy. I mean, it's a kind of an odd deal. And they have a handful of, they have Dominic Abinator wrestles for Lebanon. So when you think about that, they have that, and they have the, perfect situation if that's what the Tanafus want to do, to go back and wrestle internationally and represent Cameroon. That's not that they couldn't wrestle for the United States, but it gives another opportunity for, I think those guys at Cliff Keene really have kind of a niche there where they have figured out how to do it. So it'll be kind of fun. And actually, some of them like Miles Amin, he's qualified for the Olympics. Mm-hmm. He took 5th at the World Championships last year at 86 kilos. it's pretty interesting. So I think that's kind of a neat fit. Now, when we talk about kids that I think, obviously we've had a few that have already committed that we've talked about in the past.
Right.
But some of the other ones on the D1 side, it's a quiet period. They cannot be contacted. I mean, they can talk to coaches, but they cannot visit schools. They cannot go on official. They can go on an unofficial visit, but if they go on an unofficial visit, they can't meet with the coach. But they can. So I think everybody nationwide is kind of in that holding pattern. You're seeing a few of the big, come off the big board that have committed to Penn State or Oklahoma State or Navy's gotten a few. So there's been a few of those that have dropped this summer, but this year's coming seniors, there's still some to go, and the juniors that are not really being touched.
Just another big name from South Dakota. We know, of course, that Kellen March from down in Canton, South Dakota. He's at NDSU.
Yep.
He's going to give a battle. He's going to be at 133. You've got Bismarck, Ripplinger sitting there at 133, kind of the guy kind of coming up at that weight class. So that's going to fill the room with some talent. Ripplinger might be a little bit bigger now, but Kellen March, that should be interesting coming into NDSU there. He has a lot of experience. So
right.
Other than that, there wasn't really much North Dakota or South Dakota guys coming into NDSU.
Not for this year, but next year, right? Clay Reden's committed there for next year.
That's correct.
Am I correct about that? I think that's what I remember saying.
Yep. Well, that is exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. So that's huge.
Centuries.
That's, great for Clay. And I can't. Yeah, I don't know of anybody else that even this year. Let's see. Well, I guess there is. Let's see. Who was somebody? There was a couple maybe. Couple maybe going D2 to Moorhead. I think they picked up a North Dakota kid or two.
I know they picked up Malone, South Dakota. Let me think. I should actually look something like that up. Moorhead State. Yes, Moorhead.
Bismarck kid, Bismarck 100 Roldson.
Okay.
I think.
He's a talented wrestler.
Yeah,
there.
I think he was going to MSUM. Well, of course,
that's one I forget. I don't know why. And there's a lot of North Dakota wrestlers that go there. That why I forget to look them up. That Booker who wrestled there was a state champion for Fargo South the one year, and then wrestled somewhere last year in Minnesota.
Yeah, he was homeschooled.
And
wrestled for Fargo South, but
and he's going to be going there. I see. Let me take a quick peek. Any other freshmen? Detroit Lakes kid, Alaska. Good to see that.
Yeah, they get a lot. They actually usually get a few Alaska kids there, or they have had over the years.
Okay, yep. Malone, I saw him. I knew that he was coming there. He's Rapid City Stevens. He was going there. He should be wrestling 41 for him. Let's see. Any other freshmen? Freshman Gage Roldson. They've got him scheduled for 174 there. Yep. Again, there's lots of other North Dakota wrestlers we talk about, but we're just going to stick with just the freshmen. We'd be here all day.
Right. Yeah.
And I really like Chris Nelson. He's done a heck of a job there. One that kind of surprised me, as their assistant coaches, he has that Solberg, and that's Solberg and
Lehman.
Lehman's also there. So he's got quite a bit of North Dakota talent sitting there in his room right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few exciting ones that we're going to hopefully get to see a little bit this year. And I don't, we're still, I guess the jury's still out on who's going to end up out of this coming senior class.
Well, there's another one there. I see that from Tom. He says that Lemaire kid committed to Michigan, ex-South Dakota kid from.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, yes. And he, from Oregon now.
And then, of course, we got that's Malone right there, Patrick, his oldest decided. So he was a junior wrestle senior citizen, now in Nebraska for now. Yep. Quite a few on there. Ed Malone, Yay Gage. I like when you guys make comments. That's pretty good. Oh, Lewis had also mentioned there. Signed with Michigan. That is pretty cool. Keep making comments, guys, because we don't see it all. This is our first show coming back, and we're both. I tell you what, I I am now got the pressure on to get out there and look. I haven't looked at Dickinson's roster yet. I haven't looked at Mary's roster yet. I haven't looked at Minot's. I wasn't preparing to go through all the colleges, but that could be
right.
We could be another show there for us.
Yeah, no, I wasn't either. But you start thinking about them and you start talking. So that's the way it goes. But
that's
we're
all.
not trying to leave anybody out if we forget. With just it just kind of started knowing what people are doing. These colleges do plan on having a wrestling season, and that's, I guess that's all we can really be excited about. And we will keep staying on top of what everybody's doing, and I hope this there's going to be a lot of true freshmen, I'm sure, this year that will redshirt, because it makes really the most sense with the season that's kind of up in flux. But obviously, we want everybody to have a season, and I'm really hoping for the seniors we have a season. So,
well, I was looking forward so much to check if our big heavyweight out of Chamberlain,
made a change,
got a chance from Nebraska. No, if you made a change and went to wrestling, huge. But
well, if they weren't going to have a Big Ten season, you might as well wrestle.
Yeah, I wouldn't hurt me at all. We're seeing that. But I tell you what, I was listening to some of the stuff on his dad's a good friend and on Facebook and all those other places, and he mentioned on how many he puts articles from Nebraska, different places, and how the coaches are impressed on how he's probably one of the strongest kids they've ever seen. That's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's not a surprise. Hey, I see Ryan Schwab here mentioned, and I knew there was a few Lisbon kids that ended up going different places. Caleb Nielsen to Dickinson, Hunter Schwab to Concordia. Awesome to see. That actually is going to be a little bit of a bummer this year. Normally Northern wrestles a duel at Concordia, and they also duel Dickinson, and they wrestle at the Concordia tournament. And I'm guessing none of those things will happen this year. And I always enjoy seeing both of those squads, because there are generally North Dakota kids in them, and Minnesota kids, even some Montana kids that we've seen, throughout the years at the Rotary, and I get to see them again. So those have always been fun, but I'm afraid that this year I'm not going to get to see those guys. So I will follow them, but I won't get to see them in dual action.
Right. No, I tell you what, it's amazing on how you pick up on certain wrestlers, and it's a tribute to all those towns that get somebody to go to the next level. People don't realize how tough that is as a coach to get the guys to not only work their butts off in high school, then take it to the next level. That's making their wrestlers find a love for the sport.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not like just playing and then leaving when it's all said and done. It's in them forever once they step that next level. It's pretty cool.
Yep. No, I agree.
No, so let's talk a little bit of beat the streets. How about that?
Yeah, so now we get to talk about actual current wrestling stuff that's happening within the last 7 days. So
tell us, okay, for those of people that don't know this, tell us a little bit about the format, because this is new to bringing some money into the sport. Now I listen to Flow Wrestling, and they've got a great following on. I guess they have a Facebook page too, where they go live and they talk a lot.
They actually have a podcast, and they actually do just like what we're doing here. They stream live 3 days a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Flow Wrestling Radio Live. And it's Christian Piles and Ben Askren, who's obviously two-time Hodge winner. And then
and he's a goofball. If you ever watch him,
he's a goofball. Yep. You can love him or hate him, but they love to talk about wrestling. So it's fun. Yep. I guess I don't probably ever miss a show, but and actually, if we go back, we'll talk about all the live stuff that just happened.
Right.
But back in August, I believe it was, Flow did. So before that, we had a group out of Chicago held an outdoor event. There were some fun matches there, and then Flow had an event. They brought a bunch of guys down, and I'm going to say guys because it was all men. There was no women involved, and that was kind of a bummer. But they did have some great matches down in Austin, Texas. They brought a bunch of people in, and including David Taylor and
was that in August?
I think it was in August.
Right in the beginning. Okay, I missed seeing that, but yes, I heard about it.
It was fun. David Taylor and Miles Martin wrestled. David Taylor looked absolutely phenomenal, just destroyed Miles Martin. And that was I'm not going to say, obviously we would have all picked David Taylor to win that match, but he had 5 takedowns and 5 different, attacks, and Dake wrestled Frank Chamizo, world champion, Olympic medalist that is from Italy, right? Okay. He was a Cuban, now wrestles for Italy, trains out of New York. So, and Dake won the match. It was very close. It was exciting. So it was fun. There was a lot but there was big money paid. They paid athletes. These guys are professional athletes that make a living wrestling, and it's great that they can do that. 10, 15 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, that wasn't possible. People weren't able to make money. That's why they all ended up in MMA. Mm-hmm. Now there is some chances that some of these guys can make a living wrestling. So that was kind of fun. So now here we are, September, Beat the Streets, an organization out of New York. Well, they're nationwide, but they have a great organization in New York that raises money for wrestling. So that young guys like that one behind you get to wrestle.
Yep.
So they had an event last Thursday night, and it was streamed live on Flow Wrestling. They had 6 matches, 4 men's matches and 2 women's matches, and it was very, very, just really some good high level wrestling. First match was a women's match. Emily Shilson and Charlotte Fowler. Emily Shilson is a Minnesota kid, wrestles for Augsburg now. She is, I know she's been a world team member. I can't remember if maybe was a silver medalist one year.
And how many weight classes do they have for the women right now internationally?
Well, they have 6 for the Olympics. 6. They got 10, at the world level, but for the Olympics they have 6. And Emily Shilson looked fabulous. She's a young kid. She won. I don't think she had a turn. She won 10-0. I think it was 5 different takedowns, maybe 1 turn in there. Looked really, really good. And she's a kind of a fun story because I've kind of seen her grow up, watching her wrestle at Northern Plains and watching her wrestle at Fargo, year after year, and then she ended up in Augsburg this year as a true freshman and I think she maybe was a national champion. So next match was kind of a snoozer. Joe Colon and Seth Gross wrestled.
There's high scoring, but
just 21-15. Your typical wrestling match.
I was actually surprised on that one. That's the first.
I was not. You know what? I was a little. I wasn't surprised that Joe won because I could see Joe Colon beating a lot of people. But they've wrestled. They wrestled twice at the U.S. Open a year ago or year and a half ago, let's say. And I think one match they scored 22 points in the match, and the other one they scored like 17. I mean that and these were, I was talking to someone the other day, telling them, they said, "Well, did they even try this? Did they even try defense?" I said, "Heck, most of these points were on defense. They were defensive points."
Yep.
Yeah, it was really a lot of fun. I mean, if you could have matches like that time and time again, people would turn away. The NFL would be turned off, and we'd have wrestling on every Sunday.
Yeah.
It was really a blast, and Joe Colon did come out on top, and it was interesting. They did, I think, those are both guys that are going to be in the mix at the 57 kilogram spot come the Olympic trials. They're both qualified for the Olympic trials, but I think they weighed in at maybe 139 or something. So they were both pretty full size.
Yeah.
Full size 125 pounders.
Yeah.
And then Rustam Ampar from Kazakhstan, I think, wrestled Jack Mueller from Virginia, and that Rustam Ampar was phenomenal.
He looked so strong.
He did run out of gas, no doubt about that. But he won 10-6. He had 5 takedowns with literally 5 different kinds of attacks. It was fun to watch. Really neat technique. But a lot of those guys from that part of the world, and he hasn't wrestled a live match in who knows how long,
Right.
And they do a lot of times struggle a little bit with conditioning when it comes to wrestling the Americans. And he that showed, but he held off he held Jack Mueller off and ended up winning 10-6. So Victoria Francis looked really good, like she always does, over Alex Glade. There was I think 3 takedowns and then a 4-point move, and she looked good. She looked really good. Gable Stevenson, Minnesota heavyweight, wrestled Trent Hilger. Yeah, Trent Hilger.
Do you remember we talked about both these guys a lot last year?
And Trent Hilger is an athletic heavyweight that moves good, that's fun to watch. He's big.
And he impressed us last year. He was one that we talked about, that he really moved up the ladder and he started to beat some guys. Yep. And so I expected him to score at least. He didn't even score.
He didn't even come close. I mean, there was no chance. It was I don't know how you would ever. I look at Gable Stevenson and I think
lose another match.
How could he ever lose a match? But he will, because that's how wrestling is. But he is, and I think he's gained 25 pounds of muscle this year, Stevenson. And he has gotten probably more explosive and faster, which seems impossible.
To me, it looks like he's not afraid of anybody, though. He'll step in, and he's got such great balance. It's not like someone's going to just come out and throw him, So and I'm so impressed with him, more than I was last year. You had mentioned wait till he comes because he's kind of wrestling international. He only had a few matches starting off the season last year in D1s, and then all of a sudden, you said, I don't know if anyone's going to touch him. Last year, you already said. And we were starting to get close to the tournament. I wanted to see it,
Oh, well, I've said it. I said it before, and he's lost, and so it bothers me. But he is so talented, and he's fun to watch. He's exciting. He scored. It's 11-0, and could have been, if they didn't have tech falls, it could have been 90-0. I don't know. I mean, how would he was only going to not score if he stopped trying to. That was all there was that was going to stop it. He looked so good. And then the last match of the night was really exciting. Vladimir Kinichvili from Russia wrestled against Yanni Diakomahalis. Kinichvili was a former Olympic champion. Obviously, Yanni's a 2-time national champion and is one of our favorites to make the team at 65 kilograms. And it was a good match. It was exciting. It did end up 4-4 with Kinichvili winning on criteria, but it was a pretty good match. And I think Yanni probably thinks he still has things to work on, and he's wrestling very good athlete there. So it's fun watching some of the Russians, especially seeing different technique and how they do things. They definitely wrestle a different style than we do. But
they don't wrestle the collegiate stuff.
But even just their takedowns, you can see a lot of technique that's different. They come at you in spurts, and they'll score where they look like they're kind of almost look like they're playing possum, and all of a sudden they're behind you, and you don't know what just happened because you thought you had them on the ropes. And so that was fun. It was a great. I thought really there was 6 really good matches. I thought we saw good wrestling in every match. I thought the women's matches were outstanding. So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I was happy to see it. That was last Thursday night. If you did not watch it and you have a Flow Wrestling account, even though I just told you what happened,
it's well worth your time. Yes.
They're worth watching. So then Saturday night, so there's another platform, and it's called Rockfin. So what Rockfin is they are a platform where you pay, like you would subscribe. If I had a Rockfin, if I was a person on Rockfin that had content, I was a content creator.
Okay.
You would pay $10 a month and you could get my content, but you also get everybody else's content that's on the site. And that's a way for content creators to get, to have a stream of income and be fairly, be in control of the content that they put out there. So I've been a subscriber of Rockfin. There's a fair amount of wrestling stuff on it, as well as a lot of other stuff that I've never looked at. My friend Jason Bryant is on the site, and I follow Jason. You
introduced him to me last year, and I listened to him. Yep.
Yeah, and so and actually this site was actually started by Martin Floriani, who started Flow Wrestling. So obviously it's got a little bit of a wrestling background.
So should I put my content to there? Should we do that?
We could do it. Yep. It's a possibility. I've thought about it. So what happened is the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, they have a Rockfin account. So they're gonna be a producer of content. And the first thing that I think this may be the first thing they put out is they put out a match. And I think I got to remember, I think there was 10 matches.
How did you come upon this? Do you just?
Well, I guess when I started, I came through Rockfin, and I got it probably through, I suppose when I first heard about it, may have been someone like Ben Askren. I think also has some content he put on there. But then Jason has a lot of free stuff that he puts out there, but he started putting some stuff on Rockfin, and I said, hey, I'm a supporter. I'll pay the $10 a month. I have no problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
For me to be able to support these people that are putting out. I mean, I've paid way more money than that for things that I don't enjoy day after day. So for me, I'm better off spending my $10 there than having the Fargo Forum come to my house. Sure. I mean, this and costs a lot less. So that's kind of how I came across it. Well, then when Kale Sanderson came out and said, this is what we're doing, and they did end up with a lot of new subscribers on the Rockfin site for this event. And they basically took there may have been a match or two that weren't, maybe only one that didn't have a Nittany Lion Wrestling Club athlete in it. But it was kind of like, hey, we're going to take all our Nittany Lion guys, and they didn't have all of them because David Taylor didn't wrestle, but he was an announcer. He did the play-by-play. And we're going to have all these guys wrestle either, they're other athletes from other events. So are from other regional training centers. And they were either from the Cliff Keen Wrestling Club or the Pennsylvania Regional Training Center, which is in Pennsylvania. And that's at Pitt. And that's actually where Mark Hall trains out of. But I think Mark is banged up right now, so he did not wrestle. But it was a lot of fun. There was, 10 pretty good matches. I'll talk about the very last match of the evening, which was one we're all looking forward to, but it wasn't as exciting as we would have liked to see. But the first match of the night was Malik Amin out of Michigan. Yeah. Wrestled Rick Durso, and Rick Durso trains out of the Penn Regional Training Center, and he wrestled for Franklin Marshall. He was an All-American for Franklin Marshall a few years ago, and I think he's probably been the only All-American ever out of Franklin Marshall. And based on what I saw last night or Saturday night, and he was wrestling 74 kilograms, it looked to me like he could be our Olympian at 74 kilograms.
Wow.
There happens to be a couple of other guys there named, Kyle Dake and Jordan Burroughs, and they probably will put a stop to it, but he looked really good. He won 10-0. 5 takedowns in 1 minute and 40 seconds. Looked fabulous. It was really it was fun to watch. It was good. Next match was a heavyweight match. Jordan Wood trains out of actually, I think he's a Nittany Lion guy too, but him and Nick Neville's Jordan Wood wrestles for Lehigh Valley Wrestling Club. Wrestled Lehigh, and they wrestled. Jordan Wood won 6-4, kind of a pretty good heavyweight match. Then they had a women's match. Jennifer Page wrestled Desiree Zavala. That was a 14-10 match. A lot of fun, good match. Then they had Dominic Abinator wrestled Jaime Espinal. Abinator is a Michigan guy, wrestles internationally for Lebanon, and he wrestled Jaime Espinal, who wrestles for the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, and he wrestles for Puerto Rico. So you got to see a pretty good, chance there. Abinator looked really good. Dom won 7-2. The next match was Zane Rutherford and Alec Pantaleo. So there's Zane is a 3-time national champion, 2-time Hodge winner, 2-time world team member, and Alec Pantaleo is a I don't know, 3 or 4 time All-American, I suppose, out of Michigan, and he they wrestled up at 157 pounds. So Zane is a little bit undersized there, but I think they're both going to be 65 kilogram guys. So they were about the same size, and Zane won 3-2, hard fought match, a lot of hand fighting. Really the kind of match that really about wear you out just watching. Next match was Jason Nolf, 3-time national champion for Penn State.
Right.
And he wrestled David McFadden, who was a Virginia Tech athlete, maybe a 4-time All-American, I suppose. And that one there, McFadden was a little bit bigger, I think. He was a 65-pounder, and Jason obviously was a 57-pounder. Never seemed like a big 57-pounder. But Nolf looked really good. I don't think that, there was one, he won 5-2. I think there was one exchange they called 2-2 that I think the refs kind of missed. It probably should have been at least 5-0, if not more. But it was a good match. It's fun to watch Jason always. Freestyle, folk style, it doesn't matter. Next match was Vincenzo Joseph, 2-time national champion. Was hoping to go for the third one this year, obviously, before the season kind of cut short on him. Wrestled Dan Valamont. Valamont he was actually also a Penn State wrestler, but wrestles for the Penn Regional Training Center now. He's kind of been right in there in the top 5 guys in the country for maybe the last, 6 or 7 years at 74 kilograms. Just always right in there, a tough wrestler. He's had a real solid international career. But Joseph did win that match 5-0. It was a pretty good match, fun to watch. Probably the biggest one that we'll be wondering what's going to happen as the years go on is they had another heavyweight match, and there's a wrestler out of Minnesota that is now wrestling. He'll be a redshirt freshman this year for Penn State. Greg Kirkviet. He's a world champion cadet. Wrestled for Denver Grove High or Simley, and 125 kilograms or heavyweight. They wrestled, and he wrestled Yusuf Amida, who was a heavyweight for Maryland. Pretty successful heavyweight, a couple time All-American, and Kirk won 10-0 in the first period. So we're going to see some really good battles between him and Gable, I think, over the years. They did wrestle. They probably wrestled more than once, but they wrestled in high school at 220 pounds. Gable was a senior. Kirk was probably a sophomore. At Simley, and actually Kirkwood gave him a pretty good match. So I tell you one thing that's kind of funny back at Kirk when he was a freshman. The JJ Classic was going on in the fall at Rochester, and Billy and I went down there, and he was in the bracket at 170 pounds, and now he's a giant. So, and Billy was 170 pounds. So,
right.
Yeah. That was it was right during football season, and Mark Hall was in the bracket. Kirk Lewitt was in the bracket, and actually ended up pulling out right like the morning he got banged up or something, and or ended up not wrestling. But when they made the bracket, he was there. But it was a really good line. It was obviously Mark Hall was in the bracket, so that was good. It was a good bracket. But the next match, second to last match, was they had more than that. Let me think. Yeah, they had Logan Massa from Michigan, Cliff Keen Wrestling Club guy, going to be a senior this year. Logan's a really good freestyle wrestler. Has had probably would have won Fargo a couple times if it wasn't for Ryan Blease. So he looked good. He beat Bexod. I don't know if he's Russian, I think. So, but that was a 4-3 match. And Massa looked good. Massa is qualified for the Olympic trials. He looked really good at the senior nationals last year, had a really good tournament. And another women's match, Jane Valencia and Julia Salata. Salata, I think, is one of the best wrestlers we have in the country. On the women's side, and she she was behind, and then she came back, she got ahead, and then she kind of took her foot off the gas, and Jane got a takedown right on the edge of the mat as time ran out, and ended up winning that match 6-6 on criteria. And I'm sure that's one that Julie, I mean, obviously this isn't for the world team spot, so it's not going to kill anybody, but she, I saw on Twitter afterwards, she was kind of upset with herself. She should not, we can't take her foot off the gas.
Mm-hmm.
That's one thing criteria is one of those, iffy things, and, it's 6-6 and someone wins. But the one thing it does do is there is always someone losing,
Right.
So people wrestle right to the whistle. It does creates a lot of action on the freestyle side. So I think I've grown to like the criteria. I'll talk about one criteria match here that is something I didn't like, but next match was Thomas Gilman.
Because that's the final match of the night.
Oh, actually, there was two better matches afterwards.
Oh, okay.
Thomas Gilman, one of your beloved Hawkeyes, who's now training at the Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. He moved to the hated Penn State room, and he wrestled national champion Darian Cruz. So there was only one national champion in this group in this match, and it wasn't Thomas Gilman. It was Darian Cruz.
Yeah.
But Gilman looked really good. He won 14-4, 5 late in the second period. So he looked good. I was impressed. That's a lot of points for Gilman to score in a freestyle match. We don't see that all the time. So maybe the Penn State room is kind of bringing that out of them. The next match was Kyle Snyder, Captain America, wrestled Michael Machiavello. Machiavello was a national champion out of North Carolina State 2 years ago at 197 pounds. And Snyder just won 12-0.
Dominated. Yep.
He's really good. And I don't know that and he's not guaranteed to make the Olympic team. That's the crazy thing. We have Kyle Snyder.
We're deep.
Yeah. Well, him and Jaden Cox both at that same weight class. They're obviously they're maybe not the best two in the world. They're probably 2 and 3 in the world at that weight class, but they're really good. Last match of the night was Bo Nickel, 3-time national champion, Hodge Trophy winner, versus Alex Derringer, who was also a 3-time national champion. Lost one match in all of his career at the national tournament, 3 times first, 1 time third. So that was pretty exciting to see. It did end up as one of those 1-to-1 criteria matches. A lot of activity, to be honest with you. So it wasn't a snooze fest by any means, but I just come off saying I kind of like the criteria matches. They don't bother me, but 1-to-1 bothers me. And one of those ones was an inactivity point. So somebody got put on the shot clock. So but that's the way it is. I mean, you got two good wrestlers. They trying to score, and they weren't able to weren't able to do it besides a push out and a shot clock point. But I mean, overall, I didn't miss a second of any match. Sat there in my chair and watched every bit of it. So it was fun. Probably the most exciting thing about it is I think it was a success, and I believe that we're going to see more of it. I think we're going to see other clubs why would the Hawkeye Wrestling Club not say, hey, I want to do this. Everybody come to everybody. Let's get bring your 10 best and come to Iowa City, and we're going to have a match. And maybe they bring in people from Oklahoma State and from Minnesota. Obviously 2 very good regional training centers, 2 good Olympic programs. So
that would be exciting. I'd go to that. I'd watch it.
I think there's going to be more of this. I think that this is what we're finding. So if we look forward to what's happening in the future, Flow Wrestling has another event scheduled in October. This one's kind of cool. They are actually saying what they said is we're going to make an 8-man bracket, 195 pounds, I think it was. Might be 197, 195. We're going to call it 195.
Okay.
And if you can make 195, you come in the bracket. We're going to have an 8-man bracket. Winner gets $20,000.
Yep. 41,000 for the whole bracket. Yep. They talked about that. So almost everybody coming in is going to make a little bit of something. Yeah. And then champion gets $20,000. Yep.
I don't know who's going to be in there yet. They've got from the last thing I read, they have 4 people committed. Still looking for 4 more. I don't know if you'll get. You'd like to get guys, David Taylor and Kyle Dake and jumping up into that money, but I don't know who's. They'll have 4. They'll have good matches and it'll be fun to watch.
I can't make 195 anymore.
I can.
You can. Now I tell you what. I tell you what. You might be under that weight quite a bit. I tell you what. You lost quite a bit of weight. That's pretty cool.
I'm going down 2 more Olympic weights than that, but for $1,000, but I might have to wrestle Kyle Steiner, so I'm not doing. No, it's the great news is there's wrestling happening, which means that we're probably going to see wrestling happen in our own state. We're going to see it at the high school and the college level. One other thing we should talk about is the guys in Fargo are putting on an event again. What the heck is that called? Todd,
I did see that. Fuller's doing something.
The big buck tournament or something. What the heck do they call that thing? But that's going to be coming up here too. So, they're putting one on down at Legends of Gold. I'm going to have to. Well, I tell you what. I don't know when you're available. We'll have to discuss this, but we need to get another show on in another week here. So, and just discuss, because I know that Legends of Gold is going to have a kids tournament down from K through 3, 4 through 6, quite a ways up, and they were advertising some good wrestling at the younger level, at the higher level. I know that there's stuff out there. I know that's. Was it 3 Times Gear was putting on that, like you said, that? Yeah, Big Buck Nationals. It's Friday, October 18th and Saturday, October 19th.
Okay.
So that's everything from 6U to high school.
Mm-hmm.
So, if there's anybody out, obviously, if you're already getting ready for it, this, right? But for other parents out there, and wrestlers, that's something to think about. Trying to. I think we're going to try to bring a group out of Carrington.
I know that September 29th, USA Wrestling, we do have a meeting type thing that coming up. We do have a call to try to figure out what's happening statewide. I'll have to talk to now quite a few of our USA Wrestling leaders in the state of North Dakota. I have not done that. In fact, I'm on the board, so I've got a few things I should probably do there and discuss, because we had to abruptly end our USA Wrestling season last year.
Right. Yeah.
And so that is going to have to be rewound up a little bit and get our tentacles in there, and find out exactly what the coaches need, because we kind of have the process of that and get that going. What's kind of the bad part in the state of North Dakota, we've relied so much on the high schools for wrestling rooms. And that kind of stagnated us from all the way from March until now, is because guess what? Where did the kids go? They go to the schools to wrestle, and there's no place to wrestle because the schools weren't letting them in.
Right. So
that's one thing we'll have to defeat in the near future, and clubs will have to take. Carrington's lucky. They built their own building, and I tell you what, and it's good. It opens the doors up, gives opportunities for clubs to do other things. There's a level of wrestling that people don't understand that happens between that kindergarten and 6th grade that is at an elite level in the Midwest, and people don't realize that there's some clubs that are going, 10 months of the year and making some very successful wrestlers out there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then we talk about upcoming events. Senior Nationals is, as of right now, still scheduled for USA Wrestling, having Senior Nationals in Coralville, Iowa, which is right over in that Iowa City area, October 9th through the 11th. So I don't believe I don't know if they're going to have any fans or what, but they're having a match. As of right now, they're having a tournament. They're kind of planning on having a World Championships too. That could still be canceled. Hey, Tom, that's good. That's good. Thanks. 2 tournaments coming up in Rapid City. Good. That's good news.
Okay, there we go. Rapid City is some of they also hosted. I knew they were very successful having one in Rapid City. They have had a couple in Beersford, South Dakota, and so it's very good news that they're doing things right.
I think I saw that Northern State is starting their fall wrestling club up again. Their USA club is starting to have events here, practices shortly. If they haven't already, I don't think they have yet, but they're coming up pretty soon. So, feel free to get those kids out there, get them wrestling. we are, this season's going to come and we're going to roll through it. I think everything's going to be great. These kids are resilient and they're ready to roll. They're looking forward to, getting in there and mixing it up. And, and the world doesn't end if we don't have wrestling, but man, it sure would make it tougher. And so
makes the kids tougher for sure.
We're looking forward to it. I think this is I'm great. To me, it's great. We're able to get down here and talk about it tonight. We'll, I'm up for it anytime. So
okay,
my
crazy schedule
from here. This time of night, I'm ready to go. Let's talk about wrestling and think about what's going to happen in the future.
Well, super. Well, we've gone over our hour. So again, we did it without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
We got to make a concrete list. But I tell you what, people out there, if you got things you want to talk about wrestling wise, I know Tom, you're one of the greatest guys to come on too. We'll get some more people on. I'll get some coaches. I do have a couple of college coaches that requested to come on already this fall. I talked to several of them. So I do have some college coaches. I'd like to get both Troy and Terry Steiner back on. Brock Lesnar is one that wouldn't mind getting on, talking to what wrestling's like and how we could do some stuff there. There's so many ambassadors of the sport. Guys, get a hold of me. We'll talk wrestling. I'm just excited to get the season going, just like Bill here. And so again, I don't know, Bill, last words.
The only thing else that I'm going to say is, except for you just kind of blew my mind when you said Brock Lesnar wants to come on. This is, to be able to talk to Troy and Terry Steiner has been, exciting enough for me, but that's pretty cool. And I don't know I think maybe voting has closed, but Flow Wrestling had a Hometown Heroes. They gave out it's a voting. They did videos. They interviewed half a dozen, I think maybe 5 final contestants for this Hometown Heroes, and Northern States Rocky Briquette was one of the finalists, and he had a great interview with Mark Bader from Flow, and they were talking to him about everything from being a youth high school wrestler to a high school coach, and then moving into the college program and taking a program that had been
canceled,
dropped, had been canceled.
Yep.
To where it is today, which is obviously not where they want to be, but they're keep growing forward and hopefully, I think the voting is probably closed on that, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But I was proud of Rocky. I was proud. The interview that they did was super. The guy's been through things that a lot of college coaches don't ever have to see, and I think college coaches see a lot more, have to go through a lot more stuff than most of us realize. So, just a shout out to Rocky. I was proud of him for being nominated. I was proud of him for getting as far as he did, and hopefully he wins the dang thing. And that would be fun to see. But it's been fun to kind of watch that over the last 5 or 6 years, and so I was happy to see that. So that's my final words.
Okay. Well, guys, Dakota Grappler, always fun. I'm here to promote the sport of wrestling at any level, guys, because it's changed my life. It's been my passion, and it will be till probably the day I die that the wrestling's got my heart. So hoping you guys enjoyed tonight, and we're going to have a lot more to talk about. Just, again, hit me up. This is Dakota Grappler, having fun talking wrestling, guys. You guys take care, and thanks again, guys. You guys have a good night.
Thanks.